Hi, this video is for anybody who needs to clean up their current Google Classroom list of classes. So this is a video on how to archive old classes to kind of get them out of your way and to make room for the new classes that you'll be adding. So I have my list here of Google Classrooms. I'm going to go back to one that I taught this spring in second semester. I'm going to click on the three dots, and then you'll see the option to archive the class, and that's what you want to click. And then it says it can't be updated unless you restore them, which is fine because we'll be creating new Google Classrooms for our new classes anyway. So you can go ahead and hit archive and it'll store it for you and it'll move it out of the way so that you have room to add and focus on what's new and current and updated with your new Google classes. This is a quick video to show you how to set up a Google Classroom for the first time, perhaps. So I'm under my Google account, and I made sure I'm at the Google Classroom section. And once you're here, you go to the little plus sign in the corner and click on that, and you'll want to create the class. And then you have this option to name your class. I usually like to fill out just the top section and the top class name and then the bottom section and leave it at that. So it helps me just stay organized as far as if I have two classes that I'm teaching and they're different periods, I like to make sure that I label which one is which. So this one I'm going to label AP Language and Composition. And this one will be, I like to remind myself of which semester it is. First semester. And then I'm going to label this one second hour since I do have a second hour. So then I'll hit create. And once it is done creating, it'll take you right to your new Google Classroom page that you made. So here at the top, you can see that it gives you the Google Class code. You can make that nice and big if you wanted to display that. You can copy it, the link of it, if you were doing something more digitally and you wanted your students to join digitally. That would be also a helpful thing to put on your syllabus and maybe share with parents as well.
Once you're in this classroom, one of the things that you want to make sure you look for is over on the side, you are going to be able to toggle back and forth between all your classes. You won't have to go back to the google.classroom.com screen in order to see these. You can just click here. Now, students have a new widget called the to-do list. So for students, they will be able to click on there and see any assignments that are here that they need to do still that are either overdue, not done yet, due date coming up. That's where they will see them. For teachers, if you click on to review, you will be able to either pick all your classes or you will be able to narrow it down to just one class and see what items have not been turned in yet, what items are left to do, and then you'll also be able to see what has been reviewed. So what things have been turned in and you have reviewed.
Other features that you can play around with, sometimes I like to make sure that my theme kind of fits my class. So here I might pick the books and select that class theme instead. Just makes it a different color for you to also be able to see when it's mixed in with your other Google classes in your kind of home page for Google Classroom.
Now, one of the things that is in your classroom when you first get there is going to be this Meet link. Now, it used to be that the teacher had to be in there, but now if you turn it on, kids can access it. When you turn it off, they can't access it anymore. So let's take a look at settings and see where that feature is. Up here in the top corner is a little gear. And when you click on that, you're going to see your class details. Once you get to the settings, you're going to scroll down. You'll be able to change or see any of your class details here. Then when you get down to the general section, you will see invite codes. There's different ways to invite kids to your class. As Crystal said, you can invite kids with a class code and have this section here be what you display to them or copy and send to them in an email. You also can send them the invite link. This is a new thing. So you can invite them with just that link. And that means that they don't have to go to the plus sign to add a join or class and then type this code. They can actually just click on this link in an email and get right to your class. This display class code is just if you're in the classroom, you can click on that and it makes your class code really huge so that it will display on the board for kids to see. Now, as you get down a little further, you'll see stream options. In the stream, which is kind of like a Facebook news feed, it's not going to bump things to the top. It's going to just be a stream of consciousness that continues to go down as you add things for your classroom. So that's why we don't recommend putting any assignments or materials in the stream because students can lose them. Any assignments or materials that you give them, we recommend putting in the classwork tab so that it's easily organized and easy for students to find later. In the stream, you can pose questions to class, you can give just a brief announcement about something that's coming up, but your options include having students post and comment, only allowing students to comment on a post that you make, or locking it down to only teachers able to post and comment. Then we have classwork on the stream. Do we want to show attachments and details, condense notifications, or hide notifications? One of the ways that you can have the classwork, like when you put your classwork assignments on the stream, it will show a thumbnail of the doc or the image of the website that you're sending them to, and then the description. That's attachments and details. And some teachers like to have that so that teachers can eyeball it at a quick glance and see where that assignment is. The condensed notifications is just going to give a text line of the assignment and it won't show any attachments that are attached. So depending on how you like to see things and how your students prefer to see things, you might want to change this setting. Then you can also turn on show deleted items. I haven't really seen many people use this and turn this on because it just clogs up the stream and makes it really full of things, and it's hard to filter through anyway. But if there's anything you have deleted that you want students to be able to access later, you can toggle this on. The Guardian summaries are really nice. That's something that keeps you in communication with parents as we go through this. If you turn on Guardian summaries by toggling on this switch, this is what an example of a Guardian summary looks like. They will see the weekly summary for their student at the top, and then any classes that they are connected with will show up on this one summary. It won't be one summary per class. So they scroll down and they see their student work, and it will list every class, every assignment, what's due next week, and then the class activity as they scroll down for each of the classes. When you want to include Guardians, you're going to go to the People tab. So you're going to have to leave the settings area, go to the People tab. You will see all of your students listed. And then next to each student, if they have a Guardian that's already connected, you will see the Guardian's email address on here. If their Guardian has not been connected to them in Google yet, and you are the first teacher to invite their parents, then click on Invite Guardians. This is where you would have to type their email address. Then all of the Guardians will get an email inviting them to the class, and then they'll be able to join. Then here is the Meet code. So with the Meet code, kids can join the Meet and chat with you about anything in this classroom. This toggle switch is really important though, because if you don't want kids to back channel chat and use the Meet link to have conversations without you, you need to turn it off in between. Then when you turn it on, jump in the Meet with your students, and when you're done with the Meet, turn it off. And that's how you ensure that people can't get in without you. The grading calculation down here, if you do the overall grade calculation, you can decide if you want it on points, if you want it weighted by category, and then you can decide if you want to show the overall grade to students or not. Some teachers like to show them the grade, and some teachers feel that it's confusing because they want kids to wait until the grades are in PowerSchool to see them. Up at the top, the first tab that you come to is the stream. That's your stream of consciousness where anything that you need to post or notify kids about can go. And to do that, you click here, and then you can either type a message or you can add a resource or a link. You can also decide if you want this to go to all of your classes at once or just one of your classes, which is kind of nice so that if you have similar classes, you don't have to go into each individual classroom and post the same thing over and over again. And then you can decide what students to post it for. Maybe only 3 kids need to retake the test, so you only need to post it to those 3 students. That's why it gives you that option. The next part is classwork. So if you go up to the top and go to classwork, the first option you're going to see at the top is create. When you click on create, you will see assignments, quiz assignments, which is more like a Google form, a question, which is just posing a question and allowing students to respond to that question with text, a material, which can be anything from adding a rubric to uploading a video, a link to the online textbook. You can reuse a post, which is very handy, especially if you are planning on teaching or using the same things first semester as you do second semester. You will have to preload all of that work the first time you do this, but then the next time you teach that class, you're able to reuse the post. It won't show any student work from the first time you use that class or that post, but it will allow you to reuse the same materials, the same wording, the same prompt, and it will save you a lot of time. And then lastly on this list is topic. Topic are the headings that you're going to organize your classwork under. Let's say you want to organize by day and have all of the materials and assignments needed for that day underneath, or by week. You can organize your topics by week, or you can organize them strictly by topic or assignment grouping. Let's say you have a huge research paper due on a topic. You can put all of the materials and assignments tied to that under one topic. Let's click on assignment. When you go to an assignment, you can start by adding your title. Then down here, you can add instructions. And you can also attach something from your Google Drive. You can upload a link or a file from your computer. You can grab a YouTube video, or you can link it to an external thing like a Flipgrid board that you're using with your class. Or you can create something to attach right here using the Create button. Over on the side, you will see those same options that we saw earlier. The first option is going to be what classes you want to assign this to. And again, it's going to save you a lot of time when you have multiple classes that are similar or the same, so that you assign it all at once instead of having to go into multiple classrooms to do the same assignment. You can also pick what students see this assignment. Maybe you have small differentiated groupings, or maybe only the yellow kids get this assignment, or maybe only the green kids get this assignment. So that's handy with this listing. Then you can decide how many points it's out of, or if it's ungraded. You can pick your due date, and you can pick the topic. So this is back to that listing you get when you go to classwork, where you can delegate which topic it falls under in that organizational scheme. And then Crystal will talk about creating rubrics in a little bit, and you'll see how genius it is to have a rubric tied to an assignment.
So this video is going to show you how to create and then how to use a rubric on Google Classroom. So first thing you're going to want to do is make sure you're on your Google Class page and go to the classwork section at the top. You'll need to create the assignment first, so I'm going to go up to create. And assignment, keep in mind you can do other things, but I find it works best with assignment. I haven't tried too many of the quiz assignments yet, but I do a lot of writing assignments, so that's where I tend to create my assignments the most and then use the rubric the most. So I'll show you with the assignment. I'm just going to give a title. And then in the instructions part, they're optional, but you can place directions here if you'd like to add more descriptions. Sometimes I like to use that little section to further reiterate what's over on the side, which is the due date, maybe the point values, just so students know in writing. Then you'll see over in this column the option for rubric by my little computer, my little video here. So you can hit rubric, and then you can either create, reuse, or import from Sheets. I tend to create or reuse. They're just a little bit easier for me to do. If you're reusing, you'd be reusing from either another class that you already created or from a previous Google Classroom. So I'm going to show you the create option. The first thing you'll see is use scoring. Sometimes if you want to assign point values and have 1 point, 2 point, 3 points, 4 points, however you want to do it, you can do that. Other times you might just be leaving more formative feedback and not necessarily with point value. So you can turn the scoring off if you don't want the rubric to calculate point totals. So I will turn it off for this one, and it reminds you any point values will be permanently deleted. So make sure you do that first. So I'm going to turn it off. And you'll see that a criterion is required. So I'm going to show you just the transfer of maybe a pre-existing rubric that you have and how you can transfer that over to your rubric that you create here. So I'm going to go to a rubric that I use for my AP class. It's one that the College Board uses when they're assessing student writing on the AP exam. So I'm going to take their scoring criteria. They have this category, row A, they call it, for thesis. So that's one criterion that I'm going to want to have on my Google Classroom version. So here I'll probably put row A and thesis. And if I wanted to have further description, I could. Then the next thing that's required, it says level title. Now here, if you were using point values, you can assign it a point value. But you can also, with the scoring off, you can still assign it point values. So back to my example or my rubric that I'm making on Google Classroom, I'm going to still give it 1 point because that's what my example rubric shows. I can give the thesis 0 points or 1 point. So I'm going to put in 1 point, and then I need a description. So I'm going to take the description from my rubric here, response to the prompt with the thesis, and I copied that, and then I'll paste it in the description here. Now I have that description available, and I would just go ahead and add another level. So you can see the little plus button. So I'm going to stay under the criterion of thesis, but now I need to make sure that the other option, a 0, is there. So I would put 0, and then again, I would copy the description right there. So I'm going to pause for a second, and once you are done creating your rubric, you would hit save, and I'll show you what it looks like when you're ready to use that rubric on Google Classroom then. Okay, we're back. I'm showing you an old Google Classroom from last spring, just so you don't have to watch me do all of the steps of copying and pasting to create that rubric. So I'm going to pretend I did all of my copying and pasting. I made my criterion and I gave it the levels that I wanted with the descriptions that I wanted, and I hit save. Now the rubric is ready to be used. So I need to pull up the assignment. So I'm going to focus on this practice exam essay. I'm under my classwork tab. So I'm going to go to that assignment, and once you scroll and it's saved, once it's saved to that assignment and you scroll down, you can see your rubric right there. So I can see all the things I added. Row A for thesis, the point values, the descriptions, row B. So this is a nice way to look at your rubric and see the whole picture and make sure all of the parts that you wanted were there. But now I'm going to go and actually pull up a student assignment. So I'm going to go to view assignment, and I can see all of the students that turned it in and what their document looked like. So I'm going to pull up this example one here. And then once you pull up and you click on the student's assignment, you'll see your rubric is actually automatically off to the side. Now it's a really condensed version, so it's kind of tricky to know, okay, was that the 1, was that the 0? But if you can scroll your cursor over the options, then you can see the point values that you gave it in the level. So maybe instead of 0 and 1, maybe you have like proficient or needs work. That will be visible to you when you hover your cursor over those options. But here, again, I gave it a 0 or a 1. If I needed to remind myself of the descriptions that I put in, you can just use the drop-down feature, and right next to the number or right next to the level, again, maybe it says proficient or maybe it says needs work, you can see the description that you gave it, and it even scrolls down for you if it's a really lengthy description. So to actually use this then, what you would do is you would just simply click on the options. So for thesis, I felt like this student needed just a little bit more work, And it's really harsh in the AP world. You either get a 0 or a 1. So I felt like the thesis needed more work, so I put a 0 there. And then for the next section, I gave the student a 2. And then for the next section, I gave the student a 1. So I just clicked on those, and you can flip back and forth. So it'll automatically save then for you once you've clicked on that part of the rubric. And then the other thing I like to do is I like to add a private comment just to summarize my thoughts. So that's a really great way, in addition to comments that you leave on the document or the assignment, this is a really great way in a private comment to just leave an overall description to the student like you might do on paper of their assignment and maybe some areas that they could work on or some things that they did really well. So that is how you use Rubric on Google Classroom. And again, I'll go back to how that all started here. I'm going to pretend that this rubric here needs to be saved. And you'll see that your rubric shows up on the bottom, and then you can go ahead and assign, and it'll automatically be there and ready for you to use when you pull up the student assignment.
The last thing on this assignment is check plagiarism. It's an originality report that Google just came out with. So it's really checking against kids in different school buildings. So like Parkview students versus high school students. It will also check against different quarters of the year. It will check against different years. It will hold those reports for multiple years. So even though this is our first year using it, as we progress, it will be able to check past versions and see a paper that was turned in 3 years ago that matches this paper. When you're done, click Assign, and that assignment will show up in your Classwork tab. On the Classwork tab, you will also see the Meet link again. You will see the Google Calendar and the Class Drive folder. The Google Calendar is something that's really good to draw your kids' attention to because it will put all of their classes in the Google Calendar and show when things are due or what assignments popped up that day. When looking at the Google Calendar for your class, think of how you could share that with parents to make it more transparent to them besides the Guardian summaries on what they need to be keeping an eye on in all their kids' classes. When you click on that Google Calendar, your calendar will pop up and you'll have to scroll down until you see the calendar for your class. When you scroll down, if you find the class that you want to share, click on the 3 dots and go to Settings and Sharing. When you go to Settings and Sharing and you scroll down, one of the things that you will be able to do is get a shareable link. If you copy this link, then you can paste it in Google Classroom to share with parents, or you can email it out.
All of your students will be listed here once they join, but if there was a student who couldn't join for some reason, maybe they misplaced the code, you can always go and invite students. You can also do the same thing with teachers. So if you have a co-teacher and you'd like to add them, you can invite teachers to have teacher access to your Google Classroom page as well.
And then grades. This is where your grades are going to pop up for any assignment that you have assigned. It will give you all of your students, and then it will give you how many they got out of each.